Hello, welcome, Commissar Marek here. Today we are gonna take a look at CZ3 and what are the outputs of different buildings like farms and workshops, and you can use these calculations in order for you to be able to tell how many different goods and food you need to feed your city. It is not necessary to use these calculations most of the time. Going by just the feel of it will serve you well enough, where you can just tell something is lacking so you add more. But for those who are interested in concrete numbers, this video will be able to provide you with a breakdown of what things are produced in what quantity per year and what consumption rates are there associated with population and housing. So first thing we are going to take a look at is farms and raw resource production buildings like clay pits, timber yards and iron mines. So farms and raw resource production buildings produce 9.6 carts of goods of that type per year. Exception to that is marble quarry, which produces only 4.8 marble per year. Also workshops produce 4.8 goods per year. This is why you need, as a rule of thumb, 2 workshops per single raw resource production building. Like for example, an olive farm that supports 2 oil workshops per year, and those will churn out each 4.8. Okay, next thing we are going to take a look at is guard coverage. So in CZ3 you need to take care of the guards, and the different buildings offer you different levels of worship, basically. So how this works is each small temple will provide your city with access to 750 safe population that's covered for that particular god you are building the temple to. So if your city is 1500 population, you should have 2 small temples to each god to cover it safely, and so there are no curses. Large temples provide you with 3000 population for that god safe space coverage in Augustus. In vanilla it was different number, I believe it was 2000. And Grand Temple in Augustus will provide you with 5000 safe population space for that particular god you are building the Grand Temple to, so you can account for this in order to make the gods not jealous at each other for having different kinds of temples, because they also do mind that if you enable the god's jealousy option. Lararium will provide you with 10 population safe space for all the gods at once. So building 10 Lararii will allow you to have 100 safe space population. They are not cost-efficient way to placate gods, but keep in mind that Lararii have a big upfront cost, but they don't actually require any levy or labor. So in some circumstances where you have a lot of floating money, it might actually be a viable option for you to go with some of these. Small mausoleums and oracles are going to provide your city with 500 population safe space for all the gods at once, and Nymphaeum as well as large mausoleum will provide you with 750 population safe space for all the gods. Building a pantheon in your city, which is a grand temple that isn't to any particular god, but it has its own different bonuses, will also provide you with 1500 safe space population in your city for all the gods. Additionally, we can take a look at consumption rates for goods and food. Another thing I forgot to mention is if you have central or desert map and you are growing wheat, instead of it outputting 9.6 carts per year, the farm will instead produce 19.2 per year, which makes sense if you add these numbers because wheat is doubled in central and desert climates. If you have access to it, it will grow faster. So you can easily see why importing food is actually not that good, since if you have access to wheat on central or desert maps, importing a full quota from a city that would be 40 per year would actually give you just a little bit more than 2 of your own farms, which is just pathetic. Augustus will add some extra quotas, so it actually is already possible with custom empires, but not many current maps actually have that. So you can stay tuned for that in the future. I had prepared another thing to look at, and that is consumption rates for goods. So just give me a minute, I need to look it up here. Right, so one workshop will supply around 20 houses in your city with goods. That goes for pottery, furniture, oil, these goods, the basic ones. The wine is different. Wine provides, each workshop provides wine for about 10 villas, so it is half basically. The houses in question, the game doesn't differentiate between if you have 1x1 housing or 2x2 housing. Therefore, it's always preferable to go with 2x2s, because otherwise you're gonna just drain your resources for way fewer people. So that's why we go for 2x2s a lot of the time and build with that in mind, so we never have to worry about 1x1 housing. Otherwise, consumption rate for food is one farm feeds 160 people in your city if it is perfectly placed so that the carter can bring the produce to the granary and return before the harvest is complete, and double for wheat, obviously, because it produces double on central and desert climates. I think these are going to be all the numbers I have for you today, but I hope that this will let you know what kind of calculations you can make with this. If you are that kind of person who likes to calculate a lot of the things, you can actually go and set up a baseline from which you can actually change this. It will also be dependent on if you build any grand temples in your city, because some of the epithets will actually allow you to reduce consumption rate on some of the goods and such, or food. So we'll take a look at grand temples in a future video, but for now this is the baseline of all the consumption rates and placation for gods and all that. So again, I hope it was at least a little bit useful to you, and I hope to see you next time. Cheers.